Last time, we discussed that the ocean transport industry provides a wide range of shipping services, which may be broadly split into two main categories: liner shipping and tramp shipping. A ship that regularly sails on a fixed route following a schedule is known as a liner. This is because they have regular ports of call. On the other hand, we have ships that do not follow a schedule or have regular routes. Such ships are called tramp services. Shipping by chartering falls into three kinds: voyage charter, time charter, and demise charter. Whichever type of transport service is chosen, the charterer and the ship owner would agree on the terms and conditions, which would form charter party agreement. The term charter party is the contract between the owner of a vessel and the one that takes over the vessel for a certain amount of time or voyage. It embodies the essential terms and conditions regarding the charter, such as the interested parties, name and flag of the ship, description and the quantity of the shipments, time of chartering, freight, dead freight, loading and unloading expenses, time limit of loading and unloading, demurrage, and dispatch money. In the voyage charter party, the expenses of loading and unloading should be stipulated clearly. There are four freight terms to be used. Liner terms: FI, FO, and FIO. In the international ocean freight terminology, the word free means not included. Under the liner terms or gross terms, the freight includes loading and unloading charges. That is, the ship owner is responsible for loading and unloading operations. Free-in refers to the rate of freight excluding the loading rate. This means the cost of loading goods on board the vessel will not be included in the cost of shipping. However, the rate of unloading the goods at the destination port will be included. In this case, the ship owner pays the rate of loading the goods on a vessel separately. The opposite of FI is FO, free out. The ship owner bears the loading charges, not the unloading charges. Free in and out indicates that loading and discharging costs are not included in the freight, not the ship owner's responsibility. If the parties agree that the charterer is responsible for the charges, this term will be used with addition of stoned, FIOS, or trimmed, FIOST. The time of loading and unloading will affect the turnover rate of the ship, and thus will affect the interest of the ship owner. The amount of time the ship is expected to be in port, mainly for loading and discharging the cargo, is agreed upon, and this is known as lay time. Should the ship be delayed in port due to lack of cargo or other causes that could reasonably be said to be the charterer's responsibility, then the ship owner may be entitled to claim compensation in the form of demurrage, which is payable by the charterer, who is in breach of the charter party terms and is therefore under an obligation to compensate the owner. Demurrage is the payment of prearranged damages for keeping the ship in port for loading or discharging purposes for a longer period than the agreed time. Demurrage rates are based on the vessel's daily running cost or the time charter equivalent. If the ship finishes earlier than expected, the ship owner pays dispatch to the charterer at a daily rate, which is usually half the equivalent daily rate for demurrage, but this only applies in dry cargo chartering. Note that there is no dispatch in tanker chartering. An owner usually has no control over the loading and the discharging, and therefore the charterer will accept an obligation to load and discharge the cargo within a fixed time called lay time. The commercial purpose of lay time is therefore to compensate the owner for the time spent by the charterer loading and discharging the cargo over which the owner has no control. If, for example, the owner had calculated his freight on the basis that time spent loading and discharging will take 3 days, but the charterer in fact spent 10 days, the owner would have made no profit and would have probably made a loss from the employment of the vessel for that voyage. The terms demurrage and dispatch are used in bulk cargo shipments covered and governed by charter parties. In bulk shipments, a lot of the cargoes are fixed on FIO terms. The charterer is responsible for the loading and discharging operations at the ports at the speed at which these operations are carried out. Before an agreement to take a ship on charter is made, a charterer is required to advise the load-discharge rates, which is the time, in number of hours or days, it will take to load or discharge the cargo, to the ship owner. This information is required by the ship owner to assess how long his ship will have to be chartered. Therefore, it is important to plan the port operation based on the charter party, mainly considering dispatch and demurrage, to achieve a better financial result to the port. Then, let's move to the freight rates. Freight rate is one of the highest costs in the shipping process. In the process of transportation, the shippers should not only pay attention to the goods, but also know how to determine the freight rates. First of all, freight rates refer to the fees paid by the shipper for the services that are provided by the shipping companies. In general, freight rates includes two parts: basic freight rate and surcharges. Basic rate refers to the basic freight charged for the goods of each billing unit. The basic freight can be divided into grade rate, special rate, and uniform rate. For general cargo, the basic liner tariff rates are assessed on either cargo weight, measurement, or value. First, by weight. It is indicated by W in the liner freight tariff. The freight rate is charged according to gross weight in terms of weight ton. Heavy cargo is usually charged on this basis. Second, by measurement. It is indicated by M in the tariff. The freight rate is charged according to volume. Often, light cargoes are charged on this basis. Third, by ad valorem. It is indicated by AV or ad vol in the tariff. The rate is charged according to value of the cargo, usually at a percentage between 1% and 4% on the value of such goods as gold, silver, precious stones, and valuable drawings and paintings. Fourth, by selection. Under this method, the carrier decides to choose the higher rate between weight and volume, indicated by W or M. Choose among weight, volume, and value, indicated by W or M or AV. Or choose between weight and volume and then plus a certain percentage of AV, which is indicated by W or M plus AV. It means that the principle of care about high, not about low, is to be adopted. And more methods per head or per unit. The freight rate is charged according to the number of the cargo. For example, a freight of so much is for one truck or one head of live animal. Last, by open rate. The rate will be calculated according to the temporary or special agreement entered into between the ship owner and the consignor. In order to maintain the stability of the basic rate, the liner companies add various expenses in addition to the basic freight rate. These fees are so-called surcharges, such as heavy lift additional, long length surcharge, bunker adjustment factor, port congestion surcharge, destination terminal handling charge, peak season surcharge, etc. Freight rates are simply the price at which a certain cargo is delivered from one point to another. Traditionally, that's where the simplicity ends, as the calculations involved in producing these prices can depend on the mode of transport, road freight, air freight, or sea freight, the nature and the form of the cargo, loose cargo, containerized cargo, etc., the weight or volume of the cargo, and the distance to delivery destination. Let's call it a day. See you soon.